The text message glared at me from my phone screen. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we regret to inform you that the position has been filled internally. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking. This was impossible. Just yesterday, the hiring manager had called to tell me I was perfect for the role. My portfolio was exceptional, my interview answers spot on, and my references were glowing. Something wasn't adding up. My name is Blair, and I've spent my entire life watching my stepmother Miranda orchestrate unforeseen circumstances. The thought of her involvement made my stomach churn. "Hey, you okay?" Kenny poked his head into my cubicle, coffee mug in hand. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Remember that dream job I interviewed for at Walsh Media?" I showed him the message. "Something feels off. The investigative journalism position. But Anna Walsh herself said you were shortlisted." I nodded, already pulling up my email. "Exactly. And now suddenly, they're going with an internal hire? It doesn't make sense." My phone buzzed. Dad calling. I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, Dad." "Blair, honey, Miranda just told me the exciting news about your job interview. She said she ran into Anna Walsh at the charity gala last night and put in a good word for you." My blood ran cold. Of course she did. "Dad, I need to go. Work emergency." I hung up before he could respond. Kenny leaned against my desk. "Spill it. What did your dad say?" "Miranda helped me." I made air quotes with my fingers. "She talked to Anna Walsh at some gala last night. Want to bet what kind of good word she put in?" Oh shit. Kenny knew enough about Miranda to understand. "What are you going to do?" I started gathering my things. "I'm going to Walsh Media, right now." "Blair, wait." "No, I'm done waiting. I'm done letting her win." I grabbed my coat. "Cover for me with Chelsea," Kenny sighed. "You know she'll understand, but be careful, okay?" The drive to Walsh Media's headquarters felt like an eternity. 15 years of Miranda's helpful interventions played through my mind like a greatest hits compilation of manipulation. There was the time she convinced my high school drama teacher I wasn't emotionally mature enough for the lead in the school play. The college recommendation letter she offered to write, which mysteriously never arrived. The internship that vanished after she bumped into the editor at a fashion show. "I'm just looking out for you, darling," she'd say, her perfectly manicured hand patting my cheek. "You're not ready for such pressure. Trust me, I know this industry." The security guard at Walsh Media looked skeptical when I requested to see Anna Walsh. "Ms. Walsh is in meetings all day," he said, barely glancing up from his crossword puzzle. "Then I'll wait." I sat in one of the lobby chairs, pulling out my laptop. I have plenty of work to do. Hours passed. Employees streamed in and out. I kept working, determined to stay until closing if necessary. At 6:45 p.m., a familiar voice cut through the lobby's quiet. "Blair Lynch, what are you doing here?" I looked up to see Chelsea, my current boss, walking in with Anna Walsh herself. My heart jumped into my throat. "Ms. Walsh," I stood quickly. "I need to speak with you about the position." Anna's expression hardened. "The position that's been filled? I believe HR sent you a message." "Yes, after your conversation with Miranda Stanley last night." I met her gaze steadily. "My stepmother." Something flickered in Anna's eyes. Chelsea stepped forward, looking concerned. "Blair, what's going on?" "I'd like to know that too," Anna said, studying me with new interest. "Miranda was quite insistent about your unsuitability for the role." "Of course she was," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "She's been protecting me from success my entire life. I can prove it if you'll give me 15 minutes. Anna glanced at her watch, then at Chelsea. "She's one of our best," Chelsea said quietly. "Whatever Miranda told you, I'd hear her out." Anna was silent for a long moment. Finally, she nodded toward the elevators. 15 minutes, not a second more. As we rode up to her office, I felt something shift inside me. Years of suppressed anger and frustration crystallized into determination. Miranda had just made her biggest mistake. She'd finally given me something concrete to fight back against. I pulled out my phone and opened my evidence folder. Let me show you who Miranda Stanley really is, Ms. Walsh. And then let me prove I'm exactly who you need for this position. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor, and I stepped out, ready for battle. Whatever happened next, this time I wasn't backing down. Anna's office felt like standing in a fishbowl, floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a dizzying view of the city below. She settled behind her desk while Chelsea took a seat near the door. "Your 15 minutes started the moment we left the lobby," Anna said, gesturing for me to sit. "Impress me." I pulled up the first email on my phone. 2 years ago, Miranda told my father she'd recommended me for an editorial position at Style magazine. What she actually sent was this. I handed over my phone. Anna's eyebrows rose as she read. While Blair shows enthusiasm, her tendency toward investigative pieces makes her unsuitable for fashion journalism. How did you get this? The editor is an old college friend. She showed me when I ran into her last month. I swiped to the next screenshot. Here's what Miranda sent to the Globe Theater when I applied for their marketing position. And here's what she told the director of the summer writing program I applied to in college. Anna scrolled through the evidence, her expression growing darker. These all paint you as unstable, overly aggressive, or emotionally immature. Why would your stepmother do this? Because I'm not her daughter, I said simply. I'm a reminder that my father had a life before her, and I chose journalism instead of fashion, her precious domain. Chelsea leaned forward. Blair, why didn't you ever say anything? Because until today, it was all whispers and coincidences. Nothing I could prove. I turned back to Anna. But last night, she finally got sloppy. She was so confident you'd take her word over mine that she didn't bother being subtle. My phone buzzed. A text from Miranda lit up the screen. "Darling, I heard about the Walsh position. Don't be discouraged. Perhaps this is a sign you should consider the PR assistant role at my company. I could fast-track you." Perfect timing. I showed Anna the message. She's already moving to Plan B. Keep me close. Keep me small. I felt my voice shake with anger. I've spent my career fighting twice as hard because of her sabotage, but I'm done letting her win. Anna stood, walking to the window. "What exactly are you asking for, Blair?" "The position I earned. The one you were ready to give me before last night." I stood too, heart pounding. "Let me prove Miranda wrong. I'll be the best investigative journalist you've ever hired." Bold statement. Anna turned, her expression unreadable. "But there's something you should know about that position. We're planning a major exposé on ethical violations in the fashion industry. Given your personal connection to Miranda Stanley, that could be problematic." My breath caught. "Of all the assignments. Or it could be exactly what you need," Chelsea spoke up. "Blair knows the industry's dark side firsthand. She has contacts, insights, and motivation." Anna studied me carefully. "Is that something you could handle professionally? Investigating your stepmother's world without letting personal vengeance drive the story?" I met her gaze steadily. "I've spent 15 years watching Miranda crush people's dreams while maintaining her perfect public image. I know how to separate facts from feelings. Give me a chance to prove it." The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, Anna returned to her desk and pressed her intercom. "Janet, please send up the standard employment contract." She looked at me. "You start Monday, but Blair? One hint of personal vendetta in your reporting, and you're done." "Understood." I nodded, trying to keep my professional composure while my heart soared. "Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Thank me by delivering results." She gestured to the door. "Chelsea can fill you in on the details tomorrow." Outside the building, Chelsea grabbed my arm. "We need to talk. Coffee." 10 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of the nearby cafe. "Blair, are you sure about this?" Chelsea wrapped her hands around her mug. "Investigating the fashion industry means you'll likely uncover things about Miranda that can't be undone." "Good." I stirred my latte absently. "It's time someone exposed the truth. Just be careful. Success is the best revenge, but revenge isn't always sweet." Chelsea reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Promise me you'll remember that. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Miranda, darling, your father and I would love to have you for dinner tomorrow. We can discuss your career options. I have so many connections who'd love to meet you. I showed Chelsea the message, my jaw tight. See, she's already plotting her next move. So what are you going to do? I typed out a reply. Sorry, can't make it. Starting a new job on Monday, but don't worry, I'm sure our paths will cross soon enough. Looking up at Chelsea, I managed a grim smile. I'm going to do exactly what Miranda taught me. Smile, nod, and plan 10 steps ahead. She wanted me in the fashion industry. Well, now she's got me, just not the way she intended. Chelsea shook her head, but I caught the hint of a smile. Just remember what Anna said. This has to be about justice, not revenge. Of course, I agreed, even as my mind raced with possibilities. After all, sometimes justice and revenge looked remarkably similar. My first week at Walsh Media started with a bombshell. I was sorting through old industry reports when a familiar name caught my eye. Miranda Stanley, former CEO of Glamour Heights Fashion, resigned amid undisclosed circumstances, 1999. That can't be right, I muttered, double-checking the date. Miranda had always claimed she'd founded her current company, Elite Fashion House, from scratch. She'd never mentioned Glamour Heights. Kenny's voice came through my headphones. Did you say something? You've been staring at that screen for 10 minutes. Sorry, just found something weird. I adjusted my webcam for our video call. Remember how Miranda always brags about building Elite from nothing? Yeah, her whole self-made woman shtick. What about it? I shared my screen. Look what I found. Kenny whistled. Well. Stepmommy dearest has some skeletons in her closet. You going to dig deeper? Already on it. I pulled up another database. Glamour Heights went under right after she left. There were rumors about unsafe working conditions, but everything got buried in legal settlements. A knock at my office door made me jump. Anna stood there, holding a thick file. Sorry, Kenny, got to go, I said quickly, ending the call. Ms. Walsh, come in. How's the research coming? She dropped the file on my desk. Because I brought you something interesting. I opened the file and froze. Staring up at me was a younger Miranda, standing outside Glamour Heights' former headquarters. You found the connection, Anna said, perching on the edge of my desk. I wondered how long it would take you. You knew about this. I was a junior reporter when it happened. Anna's expression hardened. The story got killed before publication. Too many powerful people involved. But I kept everything. My hands trembled as I flipped through the documents. Employee complaints, medical reports, financial records, all pointing to a systematic abuse of power. Why are you showing me this now? Because history is repeating itself at Elite. Anna pulled out her phone, showing me a recent news article. 3 models hospitalized last month. Official story claims food poisoning. But you don't believe that. I believe we finally have a chance to expose the truth. She tapped the file. And you have the perfect cover to investigate. After all, you're just a stepdaughter trying to learn the family business, right? My stomach churned. Miranda will never fall for that. She already has. Anna smiled. She called me yesterday, apologizing for her misunderstanding about your qualifications. She even suggested we collaborate on some fashion industry pieces. I sat back, stunned. She's trying to control the narrative. Exactly. So let her think she's succeeding. Anna headed for the door. Just remember, we need concrete evidence. Your personal history with Miranda can't factor into the story. After she left, I called Kenny back. You're not going to believe this, I started, but he cut me off. Blair, check your email, right now. I opened my inbox to find a message from Livia, Miranda's teenage daughter. Hey sis, it read. Mom's been acting weird since you got the new job. She's having all these late-night meetings, shredding documents. Yesterday I heard her yelling at someone about keeping their mouth shut. I'm scared. Can we talk? Holy shit, Kenny breathed. This is big. This is dangerous, I corrected. Livia's never reached out to me before. Maybe she's finally seeing Miranda's true colors. I typed and deleted several responses before settling on coffee tomorrow, 4 p.m. at the bean counter. Livia's reply came instantly. Yes, don't tell Mom. The next day, I arrived early to scope out the cafe. Livia showed up right on time, looking nervous in her private school uniform. Thanks for meeting me, she said, sliding into the booth. I didn't know who else to talk to. Start from the beginning, I said gently. What's going on? It's not just the documents. Livia leaned forward, lowering her voice. Last week, one of Mom's models collapsed during a fitting. Mom made everyone sign NDAs before they could leave. Was this one of the food poisoning cases? Livia's eyes widened. How did you know about that? I'm researching the industry for work. I kept my tone casual, including health and safety standards. Then you should look into the Glamour Heights scandal. Livia pulled out her phone. I found Mom's old papers while snooping in her home office. Look. She showed me photos of documents I recognized from Anna's file, plus several I hadn't seen before. Livia, this is serious stuff. Why are you showing me? She met my eyes. And for the first time, I saw real fear there. Because I think history's repeating itself. And this time, I don't want to be on the wrong side. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. We'll figure this out, I promise. Just be careful, Livia whispered. Mom's not who everyone thinks she is. I know, I said, thinking of Anna's file and 15 years of manipulation. Believe me, I know. As Livia left, my phone buzzed with a text from Miranda. Darling, let's do lunch tomorrow. We have so much to discuss about your new career path. I smiled grimly. Game on, Miranda. Game on. Miranda's favorite restaurant buzzed with the usual lunchtime crowd of fashion industry elites. She sat at her regular corner table, perfectly poised in a cream designer suit. Blair, darling. She air-kissed my cheeks. I ordered us both the salmon. You still like salmon, don't you? Sure. I settled into my chair, noting how she'd already taken control of the situation. Thanks for inviting me. Of course, we simply must discuss your new position. She leaned forward, voice dropping conspiratorially. Anna tells me you're working on a piece about industry standards. I'd love to help. Really? I kept my expression neutral. That would be great. Absolutely. Elite Fashion House is an industry leader in ethical practices. Miranda's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I'll have my assistant schedule some interviews with our team. The salmon arrived, perfectly plated. Miranda took a delicate bite before continuing. You know, darling, I've always regretted how things ended at Glamour Heights. I nearly choked on my water. Oh? Such a shame. The board was so resistant to change. She dabbed her lips with her napkin. That's why I started Elite, to do things right. My phone buzzed. A text from Livia. Mom's assistant just started shredding more files. Getting photos. I quickly typed back, be careful, before returning to Miranda's carefully constructed narrative. I'd love to hear more about Glamour Heights, I said. For context in my article. Miranda's smile tightened. Ancient history, darling. Let's focus on the present. Elite's upcoming show will revolutionize the industry. You should cover that instead. Back at the office, Chelsea was waiting by my desk. How was lunch with the devil? Educational. I showed her my recording app. Want to hear Miranda accidentally admit she left Glamour Heights because of board conflicts? Chelsea frowned. Blair, are you recording all your conversations with her? Only in public places where it's legal. I sat down, pulling up my notes. And it's a good thing I did. 3 former Glamour Heights employees agreed to meet with me tomorrow. Just be careful. Miranda's not stupid. Chelsea perched on my desk. She's playing nice because she thinks she can control you. I know, that's what I'm counting on. My phone buzzed again. Livia sending photos, documents about wellness programs that looked more like forced starvation. Internal memos about keeping models' incidents quiet. Holy shit, Chelsea breathed, looking over my shoulder. Is that current elite paperwork? Some old, some new. Livia's been. I stopped as Kenny burst into my office. Blair, you need to see this. He pulled up a news site on my computer. Just broke 10 minutes ago. The headline made my blood run cold. Elite fashion house model in critical condition after show rehearsal. That's not all, Kenny said, scrolling down. Look who's representing the family. The lawyer's name hit me like a punch to the gut. The same one who'd handled all the Glamour Heights settlements. My phone rang. Anna, I assume you've seen the news, she said when I answered. How fast can you get your story ready? I need a few more days. The Glamour Heights people. We don't have a few days. Elite's PR team is already spinning this. Anna's voice was tight. If we don't move now, it'll get buried like last time. Chelsea grabbed my arm. Blair, look. Miranda was on TV, standing outside the hospital. Our elite family is devastated by this tragic accident. We're fully cooperating with authorities and supporting Jasmine's family during this difficult time. She's good, Kenny muttered. She's practiced, I corrected, turning back to my phone. Anna, give me 48 hours. I'll have everything ready. You have 36. And Blair, make it bulletproof. I worked through the night, piecing together 2 decades of evidence. Around 3 a.m., Livia texted again. Mom's still at the office. She's called every board member. Something about containing the situation. I was about to respond when my father called. Blair, honey, are you working on this elite story? Dad, Miranda's really upset. Says you're trying to destroy her company. His voice was strained. She's crying, Blair. What's going on? I gripped my desk, knuckles white. Dad, what did Miranda tell you about Glamour Heights? What? That old company. What does that have to do with anything? Everything. I took a deep breath. Dad, I need you to listen carefully. Miranda isn't who you think she is. Blair, no, Dad. For once, please just listen. There was a long pause before he said quietly, I'm listening. I told him everything. The sabotage, the evidence, the patterns of abuse. When I finished, the silence stretched so long, I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he spoke. Send me what you have, all of it. Dad, if what you're saying is true. His voice cracked. Just send it, please. After hanging up, I stared at my evidence wall. Photos, documents, testimonies, all pointing to a 20-year pattern of exploitation and cover-ups. Chelsea's words echoed in my head. Be careful. But it was too late for careful. The truth was coming out, one way or another. My phone lit up with a text from Miranda. We need to talk, now. I met Miranda at Elite's headquarters at 4 a.m. The building was eerily quiet, except for the click of her heels as she led me to her office. Sit, she commanded, closing the door. Gone was the perfectly poised stepmother. This was Miranda, the CEO, and she was furious. You've been quite busy, she said, tossing a folder onto her desk, digging up ancient history, talking to former employees, corrupting my daughter. Corrupting? I laughed. Livia came to me because she's scared of what you're doing. She's a child. She doesn't understand business. Miranda's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her desk. But you're playing a very dangerous game. No games, Miranda, just journalism. Is that what you call this vendetta? She opened the folder, revealing printouts of my research. You think you're the first person to try taking me down. A knock interrupted us. Miranda's assistant poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Jasmine's family is here with their lawyer. Miranda's face shifted instantly to concerned professional. Send them in. A couple entered, looking exhausted and angry. Their lawyer followed, carrying a thick briefcase. Mr. and Mrs. Peters, Miranda rose, voice dripping sympathy. I'm so sorry about Jasmine. I came straight from the hospital to meet you. Mrs. Peters burst into tears. She's 19. The doctors say her heart. Your wellness program nearly killed our daughter. Mr. Peters spat. She told us about the diet pills, the forced fasting. I assure you, Elite has strict policies against— Save it, the lawyer cut in. We have evidence. I stood quietly, recording everything on my phone. Miranda's eyes flicked to me, then back to the family. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, she suggested. Nothing to discuss, Mr. Peters said. We're going public. Miranda's smile turned razor sharp. Are you sure that's wise? Jasmine's contract includes quite comprehensive confidentiality clauses. Are you threatening us? Mrs. Peters demanded. Not at all. I'm simply reminding you of legal obligations. Miranda opened a drawer. However, Elite is prepared to offer compensation for Jasmine's medical expenses, plus a generous settlement. The lawyer reached for the paperwork, but I stepped forward. Don't sign anything. All eyes turned to me. I'm Blair Lynch, investigative journalist with Walsh Media. We're about to publish an exposé on Elite's systematic abuse of models, including evidence from Glamour Heights. Miranda's face went white. Blair, leave. Now. No. I turned to the Peters family. Your daughter isn't the first victim, but she could be the last, if you're willing to go on record. The lawyer looked interested. What kind of evidence are we talking about? 20 years worth. I pulled out my phone, showing them photos of the documents Livia had found, including Miranda's previous company's settlements. You vindictive little— Miranda started, but Mr. Peters cut her off. We'll talk, he said. Not here, not with her. I handed them my card. My office, tomorrow morning. Bring everything you have. After they left, Miranda rounded on me. You have no idea what you've done. Actually, I do. I met her glare. I'm exposing the truth you've spent 20 years burying. Truth. She laughed bitterly. You want truth. I built this industry. I survived it. Everything I did was necessary. Necessary? Like sabotaging your stepdaughter's career. I was protecting you. She slammed her hand on the desk. This industry eats people alive. I've seen it happen. Everything I did was to keep you away from this world. Bullshit. I stepped closer. You did it because you couldn't stand the idea of me succeeding on my own terms. My phone buzzed. A text from Livia. Mom's board meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. They're voting on her position. Miranda saw the message over my shoulder. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear? Livia, darling, she called out. You can come in now. The office door opened. Livia stood there looking terrified, but determined. I'm sorry, Mom, she said, but this has to stop. At 2, Livia. Miranda's laugh was hollow. Fine, run your story. Destroy everything I've built. But remember this, I survived Glamour Heights. I'll survive you too. This isn't about survival, I said quietly. It's about justice. Justice, Miranda scoffed. There's no justice in fashion, darling. Only power, and you're playing with forces you don't understand. Maybe. I headed for the door. But unlike you, I'm not playing alone. Outside, Livia caught up with me. What happens now? Now? I checked my phone. 6 messages from Anna, 3 from the Peters lawyer. Now we tell the truth, all of it. She'll fight back, Livia warned. I know. I squeezed her hand. But this time, we're ready. My phone buzzed again. Dad, just read everything. We need to talk. All of us. I showed Livia the message. She nodded slowly. The truth really does change everything, doesn't it? Yeah, I said, watching the sunrise over the city. It really does. Dad's house felt different now. The perfectly curated living room that had always been Miranda's domain seemed hollow, like a movie set. We sat in uncomfortable silence. Dad, Miranda, Livia, and me. I've read everything, Dad said finally. The documents, the testimonies, all of it. He turned to Miranda. Tell me it's not true. Miranda smoothed her skirt, buying time. Daryl, the fashion industry is complicated. Don't. His voice cracked. Don't spin this. Just tell me the truth. For once. You want truth? Miranda stood, pacing. Fine. Yes, I pushed models too hard at Glamour Heights. Yes, I covered up incidents. Because that's what it took to survive. And Blair? Dad pressed. The sabotage. Miranda's laugh was brittle. I was protecting her. Look what this industry did to me, what I had to become. I didn't want that for her. That wasn't your choice to make, I said quietly. Wasn't it? She whirled on me. You think your father could have guided you through this world? He's a high school teacher. He doesn't understand. Stop. Livia's voice cut through the tension. Just stop lying, Mom. Show them the letter. Miranda went still. What letter? The one from your old assistant at Glamour Heights. The one that explains why you really left. I sat forward. What's she talking about? Nothing, Miranda snapped. Livia, go to your room. I'm not a child anymore. Livia pulled out her phone. I took pictures before you could shred it. Want me to read it out loud? Miranda lunged for the phone, but Livia dodged. Dear Miranda, Livia read, I can't keep quiet anymore. What happened to Sarah wasn't an accident. The diet pills, the extreme fasting, you pushed her until she broke. Her death is on your hands. The room went dead silent. Dad's face had gone ashen. Sarah, I asked. A model, Miranda whispered. She had so much potential. I just wanted to help her succeed. She was 17, Livia continued reading. If you don't resign quietly, I'm going public. The board will back me. You know they will. That's enough. Miranda's voice shook. That was 20 years ago. I learned from my mistakes. Did you? I pulled out my phone, playing the recording from earlier. Jasmine's parents' voices filled the room, describing the same dangerous practices. History repeating itself, Dad said softly. All these years, I thought. You thought what? Miranda's composure cracked. That I was the perfect wife, the caring stepmother I had to be. It was the only way to keep control, to keep my past buried. By destroying my future. By saving you from becoming me. She collapsed onto the couch. I was 19 when I started modeling. My agent gave me the same pills I gave Sarah, the same ones elite models take now. It never stops. The industry demands perfection, and perfection demands sacrifice. So you sacrificed others instead of changing the system, Livia said. Miranda looked at her daughter, really looked at her, maybe for the first time. I became what I had to become to survive. And then I couldn't stop. The power, the control. It was addictive. The board meeting tomorrow, I said. They're voting you out, aren't they? She nodded slowly. They know about Jasmine, about everything. 20 years of secrets, undone in a day. Dad stood abruptly. I need some air. Daryl, please. No. He turned at the door. You didn't just lie to Blair, you lied to me. Every day, for 15 years. After he left, Miranda turned to me. Your article comes out tomorrow? Yes. And nothing I say will stop it. No. She nodded, suddenly looking old. Then let me tell you everything. The whole truth. Not for redemption. It's too late for that. But maybe it can help change things. Why should I believe anything you say now? Because I have nothing left to lose. She pulled out her phone. And I have proof, files, emails, recordings, everything that shows how the industry really works. Not just elite, but every major fashion house. Livia gasped. Mom, that could destroy everything. Good. Miranda's smile was sad. Maybe it's time for destruction. Maybe that's the only way to force change. I studied her face, looking for manipulation, for lies. But all I saw was exhaustion, and something that looked almost like relief. Okay, I said, pulling out my recorder. Start from the beginning. The real beginning, Livia added, sitting next to her mother. Miranda took a deep breath. I was 19, fresh from Kansas, when I met my first agent. He said I could be a star if I just lost 15 pounds. As she talked, I watched Livia reach for her mother's hand. Miranda gripped it like a lifeline, her perfect facade crumbling with each revealed truth. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad, coming back in. Whatever happens next, we face it as a family. I looked at Miranda, still talking, still confessing. Maybe this wasn't the revenge I'd wanted. Maybe it was something more important. The morning my article went live, I sat in Anna's office, watching the chaos unfold. Every major news network was running the story. Fashion, industry exposed, was trending worldwide. Your inbox is exploding, Kenny said, monitoring my work email. More models coming forward. 3 other fashion houses are facing similar allegations. Anna hung up her phone. That was the district attorney's office. They're opening an investigation into both Elite and Glamour Heights. My own phone buzzed. Livia, Mom's watching the coverage. She hasn't said a word in hours. How's your dad holding up? Chelsea asked, bringing me coffee. I searched for the right words. Processing. Miranda moved out last night. The office door burst open. Janet, Anna's assistant, rushed in. You need to see this. Miranda's going live on Fashion Network. We crowded around the TV. Miranda sat across from a popular morning show host, looking impeccable as always. But something was different. The careful mask was gone. Yes, everything in the article is true, she was saying, including my own actions, both past and present. The host leaned forward. Are you admitting to covering up Sarah Mitchell's death at Glamour Heights? I'm admitting to creating a system that led to her death. Miranda's voice cracked. And then recreating that same toxic system at Elite because it was all I knew. Bold move, Anna murmured. She's getting ahead of the narrative. My phone rang. The Peters lawyer. Blair, Jasmine's awake. She wants to talk. An hour later, I sat by Jasmine's hospital bed, recording her story. Her parents hovered nearby as she described the pressure, the pills, the impossible standards. But you know what's crazy? Jasmine said, her voice weak but determined. Part of me still wants to model. I just want to do it safely, healthily. Maybe you will, I said, thinking of the industry-wide reforms already being proposed. Things are changing. Back at the office, more stories were pouring in. Models, photographers, designers, all breaking their silence about the industry's dark side. Blair, Kenny called from my computer. You should see these comments on your article. I scrolled through them. Finally, someone said it. I survived this industry, barely. My daughter wanted to model. Now I know better. This isn't just fashion. This is every industry that profits from women's insecurities. Chelsea squeezed my shoulder. You did it. You really did it. We did it, I corrected, thinking of Livia's courage, Jasmine's testimony, and yes, even Miranda's final confession. My phone buzzed again. Dad. Miranda's at the house. She wants to talk to you. I found them in the kitchen. Miranda had traded her designer suit for jeans and a sweater. She looked smaller somehow. The board voted me out, she said without preamble. Unanimous decision. I know. They're bringing in new leadership, promising reforms. She laughed softly. Everything I fought against for years, and now they're calling it progress. Because it is progress, Dad said quietly. Miranda nodded. I know that now. Too late, probably, but I know. She turned to me. You did what I never could. You broke the cycle. That's not why I wrote the article, wasn't it? She smiled sadly. You wanted revenge? Yes, but you also wanted change. I only ever wanted control. My phone buzzed continuously. More messages, more stories, more evidence of an industry finally facing its demons. What happens now? I asked. Now? Miranda sighed. Now I cooperate with the investigation. Tell them everything I know. Maybe help build something better from the ashes. Dad reached for her hand. You don't have to do it alone. Actually, she pulled away gently. I do. I need to face this on my own terms. My phone rang. Anna again. Blair, get back here. The industry task force wants to meet with you. They're talking about new regulations, independent oversight. Go, Miranda said. Change things. Do what I should have done 20 years ago. As I turned to leave, she called after me. Blair, I'm sorry for everything. I know it's not enough, but it's a start, I said. Sometimes that's all we can ask for. Back at Walsh Media, the story was still growing. More whistleblowers, more companies, more industries facing scrutiny. You've started a movement, Anna said proudly. No, I replied, watching the coverage. We just gave voice to one that was already there, waiting to be heard. Chelsea brought in champagne. To taking down the toxic fashion industry. To building a better one, I corrected, thinking of Jasmine's words. My phone lit up one last time. Livia, Mom's agreed to therapy. Me too. Maybe we can all heal from this. I smiled, raising my glass. To healing and to truth. To truth, everyone echoed. Outside my office window, the city sparkled in the evening light. Somewhere out there, other stories waited to be told. Other systems needed changing. But for now, this victory was enough. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. The Fashion Industry Reform Summit buzzed with energy as I made my way to the podium. Familiar faces filled the audience. Jasmine, now a vocal advocate for model health rights. Chelsea and Kenny, beaming proudly. And in the back, Miranda and Livia, sitting together but slightly apart from the crowd. When I wrote the article that exposed the industry's darkest secrets, I began. I thought I was writing about revenge. Instead, I found myself writing about redemption. The crowd hushed as I continued. Today, we're not just implementing new safety regulations. We're changing the entire culture of fashion. After my speech, Jasmine took the stage, looking healthy and confident. I'm proud to announce the launch of our Model Health Initiative. No more dangerous diet pills, no more extreme fasting, no more silence. The applause was deafening. In the back, I saw Miranda wipe away a tear. At the reception afterward, Anna pulled me aside. The network wants to expand our investigation. Other industries, similar issues. Are you interested? Before I could answer, Dad appeared with champagne. Whatever it is, say yes. You found your calling. Speaking of callings, Chelsea joined us. Guess who just got approved as our first independent industry monitor? Livia walked up, grinning and holding up her certification. Ready to keep these fashion houses in line. Following in your sister's footsteps, Kenny teased. No, Livia said firmly. Making my own path, I spotted Miranda standing alone by the windows and made my way over. She looked different, softer somehow, but stronger too. Quite a turnout, she said, watching the crowd. Sarah would be proud. The memorial scholarship in her name will help a lot of young models. Miranda nodded. I visited her family last week. 15 years too late, but they deserve to hear the truth from me. How did that go? They threw me out at first, she smiled wryly. But then, her mother called the next day. We talked for hours. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies hurt more. Mom? Livia approached cautiously. The board members from Elite want to talk to you about consulting on the new safety protocols. Miranda hesitated. I'm not sure I should. You know every trick in the book, I interrupted. Use that knowledge to protect people this time. She studied my face. When did you become so wise? I had a good teacher. She showed me exactly what not to do. Miranda laughed, a real laugh, not her practiced social one. Fair enough. As she walked away with Livia, Dad slipped his arm around my shoulders. You okay? Yeah, I said, surprised to find it true. I really am. The evening wound down with impromptu speeches and toasts. Jasmine shared her recovery story. Former models spoke about finally feeling heard. Industry executives pledged support for the new initiatives. Kenny raised his glass to Blair, who turned personal vendetta into public victory. No, I corrected, looking around the rooms at all the lives changed, all the bridges rebuilt. To everyone who chose truth over silence. To everyone who risked everything to make change happen. As people began leaving, Miranda approached me one last time. I have something for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo. Teenage Miranda in Kansas, bright-eyed and smiling, before the industry changed her. With it was a note. Thank you for breaking the cycle, for showing me it's never too late to change. Love, your wicked stepmother, reformed. Keep it, she said when I tried to return it. Remember that everyone starts innocent. It's what we choose to do after we lose that innocence that matters. My phone buzzed, Anna sending tomorrow's schedule. More interviews, more investigations, more stories to tell. Ready to change another industry? Chelsea asked, reading over my shoulder. Actually, I smiled. I think I'm ready to build something new. I looked around the room one last time. Jasmine chatting with young models about healthy career paths. Livia explaining monitoring protocols to industry veterans. Dad and Miranda having what looked like their first honest conversation in years. Kenny appeared with our coats. Need a ride home? Not yet, I said, pulling out my notebook. I have one more story to write. About what? I watched Miranda hug Livia, saw the genuine smile they shared, about how sometimes the happy ending isn't what you expected. Sometimes it's better. That's not very journalistic, Chelsea teased. No, I agreed, thinking of all the twists and turns that led us here. But it's true, and in the end, that's what mattered most. Not revenge or justice or even redemption, just truth in all its messy, complicated, beautiful reality. I opened my notebook and began to write.